been a good year in movies. We are year to date at about $8.8 billion in box office sales. That's on pace to set another record year on year. And there's a lot of trends that are happening in our business that I think are worth calling out. While the trailer is still very much at the epicenter of everything that a movie marketer thinks about, we're evolving to a place where consumers and viewers are looking for other things. They're looking for other pieces of content. In the past year, interest in movie-related content on YouTube has doubled. So viewership has doubled. And if we look at just in search, sort of our key insights engine, we see that queries per film are up 30% year on year. So there's tremendous inertia from viewers looking for more content. I wanted to call out just a couple of best practices that we're seeing. This first is this notion of authenticity as the new engagement. And I'm sure a lot of people in this room saw the work that was done around Carrie, this telekinetic, coffee house video that just exploded on YouTube. I think it has over 40 million views. And if you compare that to the official trailer, it's a couple million views. So there's this notion of authenticity that viewers are really hungering for, they're desiring it, they're looking for it. A second example I just want to call out is this notion of content as advertising. And a good example was Oz and the Great and Powerful and the work that we did with Disney to do a Google Chrome experiment. It was a great partnership in storytelling where we were trying to demonstrate the technical amazement that exists with Google Chrome, the browser, while giving users the ability to go from their desks into the land of Oz, into the world of Oz, and experience all different components of this fantastic movie. And then the last one is really around sharing as a social currency. Evil Dead was a film that had a red band trailer, and they couldn't promote it. And so they had a really innovative idea where they filmed fans watching the trailer and their reactions. Those fans shared that with their friends, and as a result, viewership of the original trailer spiked immensely. And it was a great example of sort of tapping into that insight that fans want to be the first. They want to be the first to share with their friends and experience and discover something.
That's Fred. Fred was the first YouTuber to have 1 million subscribers, and when I met him, he had about 500 million views of his comedy videos. So my agents brought Fred into a meeting with me, and my first thought was, is my career over? Because why are you bringing me this guy from YouTube? I make movies and television. What am I going to do with him? But then I went home to my kids that night, and they usually have a lot of kids hanging at my house. So I asked them all if they knew who Fred was, and that's when the light bulb went off. They all knew who Fred was. They loved Fred. They were able to do lines from all his videos. And when I asked them if they'd be interested in seeing a Fred movie, one of them quickly said, "Tonight?" Totally true. So we went to work, and I knew we had to go fast, so I decided to skip the usual studio development process, and which would have led to questions like who should play Fred, and you guys know what I mean. Jason Blum is laughing. So I made a decision to do something I'd never done before in my career, which is I financed the movie myself. And the reason I did that is because I knew we had to move fast. So 6 months from the meeting to actually the movie being on television, it premiered on Nickelodeon and was the #1 movie of the year for kids, teens, and tweens, and still the highest rated movie in the history of Nickelodeon. So from there, we turned that brand into a franchise. And we ended up making 2 sequels and a TV series from it. And ultimately, I decided that this was going to be the way we were going to work in the future. Fast and furious and ready to evolve as quickly as, and hopefully as successfully as Fred had. So knowing the success of the movie hinged on engaging Fred's YouTube audience and ultimately moving them to television, we shot a few YouTube videos while we were making the movie. And we did this so that we could, embed them on Fred's channel on YouTube and then all across the YouTube platform, and hopefully to sort of engage his audience and get them to move to watch him on television, which we had no idea what they would do or not. We used, at the time, there was only Facebook and Twitter, and we used his Facebook and Twitter platforms along with Nick's marketing, and that's basically what drove the success of the movie. So fast forward a few years later, and YouTube came calling, and they asked if I wanted to be part of the Original Channels program. And at this point, I had made a decision to pivot my whole company in this direction. And I knew that we had to focus on what was my sweet spot for the last, too many years, which is teens and tweens. So, and the reason why is I knew that they're the perfect source for new talent and new ideas, and our audience was already waiting for us online. So now all we had to do is create something to galvanize this audience. And our solution was Awesomeness TV. In just a year, we now do close to 300 million video views a month across our channel and our network. We have 65 million monthly unique watching, and we have over 30 million subscribers. And what's cool about this is that it's all one demo. It's all teens and tweens.
What are some examples of success that you see within the industry?
It's all over the place. I really believe that, what's happening now online is not any different than what happened 20, 25 years ago in the cable business. So 25 years ago, these things like CNN and ESPN and MTV came along, and no one knew what they were and if they were going to stick around. But giant brands were born out of the cable boom. And I think, today you're going to see some online brands, whether it's Machinima, or Awesomeness, or individual YouTubers. I think, Vice is a tremendous example of that. I think ultimately these are going to be the big cable brands of tomorrow.
It's a fair question. It's early in the morning. I'm just up here kind of talking about myself and rambling a little bit. Why does it matter? So it's a good question, and let's talk about that, because you guys are the experts at movies, right? I'm not going to come in here and tell you anything you don't know about movies. What I can tell you about is communicating to our audience how we've done it authentically, organically, any one of those buzzwords you want to throw around for the last 2 decades, and now how we translate those services for our partners, both in general and in film specifically. We do like to think of ourselves as film marketing specialists, mostly because we're a content company ourselves. It's in our DNA. We've been doing storytelling for 20 years. So yes, we can work with apparel brands and sneakers and whatever other advertisers we partner with, and that's all fine and well, but I think our best work comes from when we partner with other brands that tell stories, specifically movie studios. So the approach here is simple. Content is king. And this has been kind of teed up very nicely by Brian this morning and everything else. There's no greater asset than creating great content. And the movies themselves, Hollywood remains the gold standard. For all of the talk about the rise of digital and everything else, movies, for my buck, are the best entertainment you can get. So when we're talking about marketing those movies, yes, the trailer is still vitally important, as we said this morning, but it's all about kind of extending that content universe around the film itself. So we firmly believe in content-first marketing, and the idea here is not a hard one to grasp, but basically the more content you create, video content, photos, behind the scenes, director interviews, whatever assets you can create, the more reasons you have to communicate with your audience. I realize it sounds like I'm stating the obvious, but it is a very fundamental thing, and it's at the core of our most successful programs. The greater the volume and frequency of content, the greater the authentic communication with the audience, the greater the engagement, the greater the success. 80% of youth say that they want brands to entertain them. Films increasingly need to be thought about as brands and franchises in and of themselves. So they're not looking for advertising, they're looking for entertainment, they're looking for engagement, they're looking for something a little bit more. So when we talk about how we do that for films specifically, Find a core element of the story, the idea of the film. This goes back to the idea. Hollywood's the gold standard. All of this stuff is already there and teed up for us. It's just about going in and teasing out these assets and then distributing them and communicating them smartly. So finding the particular storyline or narrative of the film and creating a kind of universe of content around that. The basic idea being, if we can make the topic of the film, if we can make the idea of the film itself culturally relevant before opening box office, then the film kind of enters the crest of a cultural conversation at its peak and has its most success, rather than the film kicking off a conversation. So there's a few key learnings that need to be applied when we're communicating with this audience and when we're leading with content around film. The first is just to be honest and authentic. It's no great revelation, but creating a real emotional connection with this crowd, with the 18 to 34-year-old audience who will be those brand ambassadors, is the only way forward. Giving them something real to chew on, being totally forthright with the film, what it's about, and the fact that what they're watching is marketing, it will honestly win you the day. And then, of course, add value. And this is the simplest idea, but it's the crux of it all. No one has ever gone to a website and left the website and gone, Jesus, I really wish I got served one more 300 by 250 ad. I can't believe they fell short. But people have left websites and they have said, I wish there was episode 5 of that 4-episode series. Right? So let's give people what they want. Let's use advertising and marketing dollars to make great content and communicate in a way that people want to consume rather than slapping them over the head with display banners. So a few case studies. All of this is kind of theoretical, but let's actually put some context around it and see what it actually looks like when we get to work with some partners. I wanted to particularly talk about The Conjuring, which was earlier this spring, with Warner Brothers, who we have a really close kind of collaborative partnership with. And the idea here was, this is based on a true event. I don't know if a lot of people saw The Conjuring, so I'll assume most of you have, but based on real events. And we thought we could take that idea of real events and inspiration and run with it on kind of both sides of the fence. So the first was a documentary series with the real folks behind the film, exploring the actual setting of the film and the surviving members. And then there was the idea of the film inspiring a next generation. So that was the 307 Project, which is a series of 1-minute horror movies by up-and-coming directors. So people who were inspired by The Conjuring, who went out and created their own films based around this 307 motif that was kind of at the crux of The Conjuring.
And now just to talk a little bit about kind of 3 marketing case studies and how we're involved in marketing. We've gotten much, much more involved in marketing because when Amy Powell and her group at Paramount did Paranormal, I was lucky enough to kind of have a front row seat to that and watch how they handled the movie. And like I said, and really at that point, and when I was building my little idea of make independently, have a studio release, I firmly believe as a creator, despite the content is king, I really feel like it's to have a financial successful movie, it's 50% the movie, what the movie is, and 50% the marketing and how the movie is released. And the longer I do this, the more I believe that. And Paranormal was absolutely that. It was a great movie that Oren Peli made and a terrific marketing plan that Paramount did. And what I saw Paramount do so well was somehow make the fans feel like they owned the success of the movie. So they weren't giving $12 to buy a ticket, they were giving $12 to support independent film. And that was amazing, I thought, and really, really powerful. And so when I started building this model, I thought that we have to get more involved in the marketing of the movies. We started this tradition on The Purge, which Universal released in June. And now, this was the first time we did it on The Purge, but now we do it on every movie. For 3 months, Sung-Mi wasn't at our office, but 2 days a week would go to Universal and sit with their digital group and coordinate and support and have fans talk to each other and just be there so that the companies were really communicating. And that's worked really, really well for us. One of the things that came out of that is that for The Purge, I did a 2-week kind of a book tour of the movie, except we used the movie, and so it was a movie and not a book, so I screened the movie in different college towns. and I would show the movie, and then I'd get to talk to the fans at the end of the movie, and some of them liked it and some of them didn't, but they were very engaged, and then I'd do press the next day. And kind of the lesson that I got from that is that I really feel like if you're not going to use the movie to sell the movie, which is what we did with The Purge, you probably shouldn't be releasing the movie wide. So that's something that I feel strongly about, and that's kind of that was my Purge marketing lesson. And then as we've done this more and as I've worked more with Sung-mi, the other kind of idea that I feel very strongly about is a lot of filmmakers feel like they have to cover everything that they're doing and make it secret. And I think, JJ is really known for this, and I think when you have a brand like Star Wars and that kind of pent-up demand, you can do that. We are not making Star Wars. And so I feel the opposite about that. I feel like our sets are open. You can send pictures and it's very it drives people crazy. We don't color code the scripts. We don't make the pictures go through 17 things before we send them out. We're very transparent with the process so that our fans know who we're casting, where we're shooting, what the director likes, what he doesn't like, so that the fans feel invested from the very beginning. One of the struggles that I see or that we have with our movies is that we're in this crazy time where we finish a movie and we have two choices. We can either release it on 3,000 screens, and there's a minimum of $25 million in marketing money spent, or it goes on 10 screens, and there's $100,000 spent. There's no middle ground. And my friend Ted, who although he doesn't like horror movies, I do agree with him about this. And what I really hope, and one of the reasons I'm excited to be here and happy to trying to work with Google more and more, is that there will be a world in the not too distant future where we'll have a movie and we'll be able to spend $10 to $15 million on very, very targeted ads. And like my friend from Vice talked about, the fans will be able to see the movie in a theater or at home or on a tablet or on their phone all at the same time, which is something that I'm really pushing for. I know it's a little bit controversial, but I'm a big, big believer in if we collapse windows, it's going to be great for the movie business.